What's up, guys? Welcome back to Almost Smoking 40K. Here today to do a recap on my time at the Nova Open 2024. Played in the 40K Masters singles event. Brought my Space Wolves. The event is a 9 round event. 3 rounds Friday, 3 rounds Saturday, 3 rounds Sunday. The first 5 games really just kind of sort everybody out, and then after the first 5 games, they put you into brackets of players around your similar win record, and then the last 4 games are played inside that bracket. I ended up just doing the first 2 days, the first 5 games, and the first game in the bracket, and then dropping for Sunday because I was under weather most of the weekend. So I gutted it through the first 2 days, but after Saturday, I just decided I wasn't really having that much fun playing in that condition, so I ended up dropping. Um, they do encourage you to play the first 6 games, and if you're going to drop, wait till Sunday. So I made sure I got the first 6 in. But I did learn a lot about the list. I really got to test it in a variety of different things, which I think really was useful. All my opponents were great, good people. Um, had fun, enjoyed it as much as I could for being under the weather. It was nice to be here with the guys from the Dice Hard team. I also got to see some other friends. My friend Matt Shanker was up here playing Kings of War. That was one of the nice things about not playing Sunday is I got to walk around and see some other games being played, uh, which as a just a fan of miniature gaming was kind of cool. I may end up starting to get into some Kings of War or Old World because I have a Beastman army and part of a Bretonian army at home. I haven't really been able to find an Old World crew. My friend Matt's trying to connect me with some local Kings of War players, so I may end up getting into that or Old World or both. Uh, Talked to my friend Eric. He does some Necromunda. I still got my Goliath and Enforcer, so may get into some Goliath, playing into some Necromunda campaigns if they get that going up here locally. So there's be some other stuff I'll cover on the channel as well as 40K and Space Wolves. Just branching out into just some other miniature games if I find some that I enjoy, just so that I can pass that on to everyone. But with that being said, I'll go ahead and break down my games a little bit and my thoughts on the Dreadnought list. For those of you who don't know about the list, I did a couple videos on running it, but I will give you a quick breakdown. So round one, I played into Tyranids, Vanguard Onslaught. He had some Exocrines, Maliceptor. I ended up getting a 94-70 win in this game. This game, everything pretty much played the way I wanted it to. Murder Fang killed 2 Exocrines, a Maliceptor, Lictor, and a Biovore, so just basically cleared a whole flank on his own. That's one thing I noticed through the weekend. In the games where Murder Fang really went on a rampage, I won. In the games where he killed like one unit or didn't get to kill anything, I lost. So I think the list may have been a little too reliant on him killing stuff just because with the Dreadnought build, I was lacking speed, and he was really the only thing that had a chance to really get in and clear the opponent's side of the table. So that's something I'm going to be addressing when I start reworking the list. So I started off 1-0, was really happy with that. Then the next round, I played into Gladius Task Force. This was Raven Guard. He had Shrike and stuff like this. Dan was a real good guy. We had a great game. He had 2 Land Raiders, a one with the las cannons, and then a Redeemer. I was a little impatient with Murder Fang in this game, just because I wanted to get him in and have him help start picking up Land Raiders. So he had lined the Land Raiders up, especially the las cannon one and the Ballistus. He had a Ballistus Dreadnought with some shots onto the Redemptors and Brutalis and stuff. So I snuck Murder Fang in over on the other side, hoping that he wouldn't target it, but I guess he knew a little bit what Murderfang did, so he actually reworked his targets and ended up picking up Murderfang, which thinking about it, I mean, obviously that's the smart decision to do. So I should have either dropped Murderfang in a safer position and it would just take him a turn or two longer to get in, or wait another turn because I didn't have to drop in that turn. So once that happened, I really didn't have the speed to get to his lines, so he was able to, with the land raiders and stuff, pick up a lot of the dreadnoughts before I could get there, and then so that was a misplay of Murderfang, and this the lack of speed really hurt me in that game. This is the first time I really saw some flaws in the list, which is good. Uh, Testing into lots of stuff, I hadn't really found a lot of major flaws in the list until this game. So that was the first time I was like, all right, I might need to start reworking some stuff. Game three, we went into Death Guard. Once again, Murderfang was able to get in on one flank and clear it by himself. Um, that was really the only major thing. The rest of it was pretty even. So that really is what flipped the game. So once again, if Murderfang hadn't been able to do that, my lack of speed probably would have been a bit of a problem because he had, I believe, three Chaos Predators or two Forge Fiends. So no, that might have been no, that wasn't this game. That's a game later on. He had Plague Marines and Rhinos, Mortarion, um, two Blight Haulers, I think they're called. They're like little trike looking things with guns on them. So once the Murderfang cleared that one flank, Mortarion moved up, but I was able to kill him with Bjorn, Logan, and some Redemptors just multi charging into him. Uh, the list worked well in this game. The Death Guard gave out lots of minuses to hit, but the Tech Marine and Iron Priest gave out plus ones, plus all the rerolls on Logan's turn and Oath really helped mitigate that. So I think the list plays well. This is a good matchup for the list. So at the end of day one, I was 2-1. I had one bad matchup, or not bad match, just a list where I found some of my flaws got exposed and some greediness on my play. So I was really hopeful going into day three. Or sorry, day three, day two after three games. So round four, I played into John playing Packbound Zealots. Really nice guy. We had a really weird rules interaction, which kind of soured me on the game. Partially because I didn't sleep well because I was still feeling kind of sick. But the game was going fairly close. But I had Murderfang set up to do the Murderfang on a flank. He charged in, finished picking up a squad of cultist, exalted, or cursed, whatever they were, like an elite squad of cultists with a big three wound guys. So he picked them up, consolidated into a two-man plague marine squad that I had done some damage to earlier, but left alive. I popped the 6-inch strat. I was on Logan's go turn. Um, and so I positioned him on the edge of the Legionnaires, not Plague Marines, Legionnaires, to ricochet off of that into a bike squad, and then hopefully into a Predator and Forge Fiend, both which were kind of wounded, and he should have easily picked up, and a Rhino. But then there was a weird rules interaction here. He went to do his Dark Pact on his Legionnaires and failed it when they went to do their attacks on Murderfang. Took three mortal wounds, pulled the guy that was in base with Murderfang, and since the other guy wasn't in engagement range at that point, we called a judge over to confirm this just to see because it's such a weird thing. But the judge said you do not have to pile in at that point. Pile in is optional. So since he didn't have to pile in, he wasn't in range to select Murderfang as a target. So Murderfang didn't get to fight again. So he actually ended up standing there, which left the Forge Fiend and Predator alive. I kind of moved some of my stuff out to make a play the next turn because I thought those things would be dead. Because of that, he ended up being able to pick up Wounded Redemptor and Bjorn, and then the bikes that lived had Melta and stuff on them. And they were able to pick up Murderfang. So that weird rules interaction caused me to lose Bjorn, a Redemptor, and Murderfang, and leave all the units I would have killed. Otherwise, I would have picked up the bikes, the Predator, and the Forge Fiend, and possibly the Rhino, and still had Bjorn, Murderfang, and that Redemptor on that flank, which I think probably flips the game my way. Um, so first game of the day, feeling sick, that kind of really took the wind out of my sails for my enjoyment of the day. Nothing against John; he didn't do anything wrong. That leadership is really he passed most of them all game. It was just the dice decided to fail it there, and just I believe it's the correct ruling. Like, so I don't, I'm not saying I got ruled against. This is a weird thing that happened that kind of flipped the game, but I think that once again points to the weakness of the list, relying on Murderfang being the only thing to be able to get into the opponent's lines early to start dealing with stuff, with the rest of the unit list having to slug across the board. So it just helped magnify to me that was definitely a major weakness in the list, the reliance on Murderfang to get over and clear stuff on the other side. But John was a real great guy. He was real apologetic and stuff about the way the thing happened, but he didn't do anything wrong. It just I probably would have taken it better if I wasn't feeling as bad. Hopefully, I didn't come off real salty. I tried not to. I knew I was coming off as like sad and down, but hopefully I didn't come off as like holding it against him because he seemed like a really nice guy. Um, so then the next round, we got paired into Grey Knights. I have decent success against Grey Knights. I fought against them a lot. I have not fought against them with this list. And I had double Infiltrator in the list, so I thought that would be something that could really go in my favor. Once we started playing, once made some charges and stuff and started swinging into all of his stuff with his Armor of Contempt and all of my combat pretty much maxing out at neg 2, all the Dreadnoughts, even Murderfang and Bjorn max out at neg 2. So with him having access to an Armor of Contempt, everything was getting 4-ups and 3-ups, which which are the types of saves that are very easy to spike. So he did spike high a little early, turn 1 and 2, not like crazy, but enough for me to realize, oh, the lack of AP in the combat in this list is a real issue. My only real AP is the 2 plasma shooting, which at D6 plus 1 aren't really reliable. So this game made me realize, all right, into certain matchups, my lack of AP is a real issue. Uh, well, one, I have a limited amount of attack. So if I had, say, I had the Thunderwolves or Redeem or something where I was just putting out a lot more wounds that he had to take at neg 2, it would balance out. But when you're only getting 5 attacks from a Dreadnought, so you do 4 saves and he's got to make 3 up or 4-ups, you might only kill one guy. So that pointed out another major flaw I hadn't really thought about in this list. Just if everything in an army is AP2, normally you have like 1 or 2 things. But on the other side, that's kind of what I was leaning into with the Dreadnoughts was most of the Dreadnoughts are AP2 with high attempts, so just being hard to kill. So when I hit something else that did that, and then he had more maneuverability. Then he also had Canis Rex, which if it was just the Grey Knights without Canis Rex, he probably still wins because they can't kill enough of his stuff with the lack of AP. But Canis being able to walk up, and I guess I haven't fought against him with Dreadnoughts. Like I know he normally kills infantry. My brain didn't process that he was strength 20. So I charged a Dreadnought into him thinking I would slow him up, and he just crushed it. And so then I knew I was in real trouble. So I didn't have anything that could reliably kill Canis or any of the 2-up save Grey Knights. So that's just something I need to figure out going forward, how to put a little more AP in the list to threaten stuff like that. Or just more volume of attacks instead of just a limited amount of attacks at AP2, even though they are 3 damage, they're just neg 2. So this was the first game where I just felt like where I realized the AP problem. I had a couple games earlier where I was starting to realize the speed problem. And in this, with their warping around and the Mista Deimos, really hurts what Murderfang can do. Because if he moves in range for a good charge, they just warp away. So you're really having to rely on 9-inch charges because you can't move within 9 inches with Murderfang of the target you really, really want. And his name was also Matt. I put him as fake Matt here. But he had some experience with Murderfang, so he also positioned his stuff spaced really well. Which another thing I noticed about Murderfang is if people know what he does and they space well for him, he really isn't going to get that crazy go turn either. So he may end up getting dropped from my list because it's cool when he does the thing, but for 170 points, most of the time he won't against good opponents. So I just think there might be better options at that point. But it was really, really fun. The couple games he did go off like that, but not enough. So at this point, I'm 0-2 on day three or day two. So that drops my record to 2-3. I was hoping to get a win my last. So this is when they put us into pods. So I was hoping to get a win my first round of the pod, and then I might have stayed on Sunday, even though I was feeling bad. But I ended up playing into Gene Stealer Cult. So just so many bodies is another thing the list lacked a little bit is horde clearing because I have a lot of I have good attacks, but not a lot of attacks. Other than the one Redemptor with the Gatling cannon, he did pretty good in this game. Then with their units keep being coming back. So you see, I took a pretty decent lead early on secondaries and primary, but then he just kept bringing stuff back, and my stuff was slowly dying. And he just had the speed to pop in places, and I didn't. So he slowly brought the game back and pulled it out 76-75 on the last turn. Really fun game. All my games were. All my opponents were great, even though I was sick. Even the first game of this day, where I got a little disheartened by that weird rule thing. I call it a weird rule thing. I mean, it's the correct ruling. Just the fact that he failed it, just the way it all played out was kind of not something you can expect to happen a lot. Uh, but if I'm ever in that situation again, I'll just base both models. I had enough movement with the 6-inch consolidate. I probably still could have made it into the bikes in that game. So it's a little on me just getting greedy with my movement. Could have easily based both, but I didn't. Um, but yeah, all my opponents were great, good people. I hope they did well the rest of the weekend. But at this point, I was 0-3 on day two. My head was killing me. I was still a little under. You can probably still tell I'm a little stuffed up still, even now. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna drop, sleep in, just pop in on the round, support my guys, go check out some other games, and just enjoy the convention overall, which I was really glad I did. Um, so I'm going to. I picked up a Kings of War rulebook and their supplement book from my friend Matt. He had a spare copy he let me have. So I'm going to go home, get on to the some of their Kings of War chats, talk to the guys about that, um, and maybe try to find some old world guys. But as to the Wolves, two Wolves were doing really, really well. They made it into the second bracket. I don't believe any Wolves made it into the top bracket. Round one of day two, or gosh, I keep getting round one of day three. The one Wolf player ended up playing into one of my guys from Dice Hard, Steven, with his guard. I ended up losing to that the same way I had been. That's just I don't know if that's a nut Space Wolves really have the tool to crack right now. The double Tang Commander, double Thorn, three Hellhounds, the Bullgrin that just all our damage two stuff into the Bullgrin, like Ragnar, all that stuff times damage one. Just it really, really speed bumps you from getting to the tanks. They just eat you up. Because even Thunderwolf, they get +1, but then the neg one cancels it out. Whereas Thunderwolves get around half damage, they don't get around neg 1 damage. So I think that's a little bit of a bad matchup for Wolves. So I'm not sure if that's something we can really, really crack consistently. Which I guess hopefully every army has something like that, so no one is winning against everything. But that seems to be something Wolves are going to have a problem with. And then round two of day three, Brendan Roy, also from our Dice Hard crew, running Thousand Suns, Triple, Vortex, Beast, and Magnus, Rubrics, all that. He hit the other Space Wolf player, and he wrecked that pretty good. Um, From what he was talking about, the Wolves really didn't even give up much of fight in that. I haven't personally experienced that matchup, but from what I heard talking to them about it, that seems to be maybe possibly another one that's going to be really, really hard for Wolves to crack, at least in the version that Thunderwolf version that was being run against him. I haven't played against that matchup enough to know if there might be other versions of Wolves that could do into that. I think the guard is tough for most versions of Wolves. Honestly, I think my Dreadnought list might be one of the better options into the guard, but as we saw this weekend, it has some serious flaws into some other things. So we find Wolves. We have the option to build a list that can beat any army, but we don't have a list, I think, right now that can beat all armies at the same time. So, like the Dreadnoughts might do good to the Guard, but they don't do good into like the Horde Gene Stealer or the Grey Knights, whereas Thunderwolves might do good against, a lot of armies. I don't know if they necessarily play good into the Guard or the Thousand Sons. So, I'm interested to see how some other people do it, like some super majors. I believe Wolves could probably win some GTs, skipping, dodging a couple of those bad matchups, or not having a high presence of those armies there. Majors, where it goes to this many rounds, where it's hard to dodge that kind of stuff. I don't know if Wolves currently can win something like that, like 60 to 100 man GTs. Possibly you could find the pairings and the missions to win with some of these wolf lists. I don't think they're going to win like a Nova or an LVO as they currently stand. I don't think we have the tools to do it fully. You can be in most games. You can come in with good records. I just don't see Wolves as being the ability to beat a few of those armies. But I had a blast. Gonna be reworking the list over the next week in my mind. Gonna have some other Space Wolf players, at least one coming on next week to talk to me about some of their experiences at some events they've been to and how they've been running wolves. And then we'll see where I land on for the wolves before the next upcoming RTT. And if I get any games in with any of these other games, we'll keep you guys updated on that. But thank you guys for watching, and we will catch you next time.